Regarding this meeting between Musa salam and Khidr, if we look at the books of tafsir, we probably can extrapolate over 150 benefits. But today, inshallah, we're going to deal with 20 benefits or issues related to this meeting between Khidr and Musa alayhi salam. Point number 1, and that is Al-Khadir. Al-Khadir, the ulama, they differed whether he was a prophet or not. And as we reflect upon the verses that our brothers have recited, we know why there's khilaf. The ulama, they differed into 2 different camps. Qawlan, generally. There are more, but generally 2 camps. Those who said that Al-Khadir was a prophet. He was a nabi. That's the first opinion. And the second are those who say that Al-Khadir was a wali, yani someone who is from the righteous servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَاخْتَلَفَتْ فِي خَدْرٍ أَهْلُ الْعُقُولِ قِيلَ نَبِيٌّ أَوْ وَلِيٌّ أَوْ رَسُولٌ. As the poet, he mentioned and he said, they differed regarding Khidr, the people of uqul, yani the people of knowledge. It is said that he's a prophet. Some say that he's a wali, and others say that he is a messenger. And those who say that he's a messenger are generally part of the camp of those who say that he is a prophet. So these are the 2 opinions. Now I'm going to mention some aqwal from the ulama regarding why they took their opinions. The first opinion, meaning that he's a prophet, Ibn Jawzi rahimahullah ta'ala mentions this in his tafsir. And he said, mentioning also from Salamakumullah, the ulama that preceded him, and likewise Ibn Hazm, he mentions also in Al-Muhalla, where he said, Al-Khadiru alayhi salam nabiyyun. And he said that Khidr is a prophet. And the evidence that he used is verse number 82. Verse number 82, the end of that which our brothers have just recited, وَمَا فَعَلْتُهُ عَنْ أَمْرِي. I did not do it upon my own or from my own accord, meaning it's from Allah, meaning wahi. So they say because of this statement of Al-Khadir that he is a prophet. وَمَا فَعَلْتُهُ عَنْ أَمْرِي. I didn't do it from my own accord. Brother, I did it from Allah, like wahi. وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. Just as Allah mentioned regarding Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that he doesn't speak from his desires, but is a revelation revealed to him. This is what Ibn Hazm has mentioned in Mahalla. Al-Qurtubi, so this is the third mentioning now. Al-Qurtubi, in his tafsir, he says, Nabiyyun ind al-Jumhur. Yani it's the majority of the scholars say that he's a prophet. That he's a prophet. Why? لأن بواطين أفعاله لا تكون إلا بوحي. لأن بواطين أفعاله لا تكون إلا بوحي. And that is that the inner meanings of his actions. What were his actions? Who can tell me the actions of Al-Khadir that we just read? How many actions did we say? What were they? Damaging the ship, putting holes in the ships, yes? And the second? And damaging the ship means that which it looks in the apparent is that it's destructive. And second, killing the boy, again, destructive. And thirdly, building up the wall for ungrateful people. So Qurtubi says the inner reasons or deeper reasons for these occurrences can only be known through revelation. Can only be known through revelation. So that's why Khidr is a prophet. Ibn Kathir, rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions 3 reasons why he's a prophet. Ibn Kathir, he mentioned 3 reasons why Al-Khadir is a prophet. He said the first one, هَلْ أَتَّبِعُكَ عَلَىٰ أَن تُعَلِّمَنِي مِمَّا عُلِّمْتَ رُشْدًا, where Allah says that Musa said, can I follow you so then you can teach me from that which you have learnt from guidance. قَالَ إِنَّكَ لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعِيَ صَبْرًا. Yani the uslub, he said to him, Al-Khadir said to him, you will not be patient with me. وَكَيْفَ تَصْبِرُ عَلَى مَا لَمْ تُحِطْ بِهِ خُبْرًا. How can you be patient with that which you have no knowledge and experience with? قَالَ سَتَجِدُنِي إِنْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ صَابِرًا. So you soon, inshallah, you find me patient. So what Ibn Kathir is saying in this angle is the whole conversation between Musa and Khidr seems like a conversation between prophets, not someone who's below Musa, as in not a prophet in that regard. So the way that Khidr is speaking to him is how you can assume that they are both prophets, and it's not somebody who is just a worshipper, and you can say has almost like an audacity to speak to a prophet like that when you are yourself not a prophet. وَلَا أَعْصِي لَكَ أَمْرًا, and I will not disobey you. So all of these mentionings by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ibn Kathir says, number one, that this shows that he is a prophet. Number three, and that is أن الخدر أقدم على قتل ذلك الغلام وما ذلك إلا لوحي إليه من الله تعالى وهذا دليل على نبوته. And that is that Al-Khadir, when he approached a young child or boy and killed him, that can only be done, that type of act can only be done through revelation from Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. لأن الولي لا يجوز له الإقدام على قتل النفوس بمجرد ما يلقى في خلده. And that is that a wali, which is the second opinion that say that he's just a righteous, pious servant from Allah, he has not got the capacity to do such an act and justify it. It can only be done through revelation, and this shows that Al-Khadir was not al-wali, but rather he was a prophet. Now, al-wajh al-thalith, Ibn Kathir mentions the third angle to show that Al-Khadir is a prophet, and that is his interpretation of these actions. يعني تأويل تلك الأفعال لموسى ووضح له عن حقيقة أمره. قال بعد ذلك كله رحمة من ربك وما فعلته عن أمري. And that is when Al-Khadir alayhi salatu wasalam, which is perhaps the best opinion, that he was explaining and giving the interpretation of these acts that he had done. And after he done that, he said, Rahmatan min Rabbik. It's a mercy from your Lord. And some of the ulama of tafsir have added to that Rahmah here means wahi, from your Lord. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned regarding An-Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, we have not sent you except as a mercy to mankind, through the revelation. So they say this is a proof here that Khidr is indeed a prophet. And he said, وَمَا فَعَلْتُهُ عَنْ أَمْرٍ, I didn't do it on my own accord, is revelation from Allah. And Shatibi is upon the same opinion, and likewise Ibn Hajar. So who are the ones who say that he's a prophet, ya shabab? Who are the ones? Ibn Kathir, who else? Huh? Ibn Jawzi, aywa. Ibn Hajar, huh? Al-Qurtubi, good. And Shatibi, did we mention Shatibi? We did. And Ibn Hajar, naam. And they use the same proof and evidence, وَمَا فَعَلْتُهُ عَنْ أَمْرِي. I did not do it on my own accord. And from the ulama from our time who have held that he's a prophet is Shaykh bin Baz, Al-Allama, Al-Imam Ibn Baz. He holds that Al-Khadir, is a prophet. As for those who say that he's not a prophet, from those is Al-Allama Muhammad ibn Salih Al-Uthaymin rahimahullah ta'ala, and likewise Barakallahu fikum Shaykh Salih Al-Allama Al-Fawzan. He's in between. So it's not an issue of, it's an issue of ijtihad, looking at the statements that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran regarding Al-Khadir. So it's not from the usul, it's from the furu'. It's not from the usul, fundamentals. The fundamentals is to believe that which occurred. The fundamental is to believe that which occurred between Musa and Al-Khadir. But as for whether he's a prophet or not, this is a branching issue that the ulama differed upon. Point number 2. Point number 2 to point number 20, we're going to deal with some benefits from the occurrence between Musa and Al-Khidr. Point number 2 is al-hubbu talib al-ilm wal-raghbatu fihi. That we see in this meeting between Al-Khadir, rahimahullah ta'ala, and Musa, alayhi salam, we see the eagerness and the love of seeking knowledge. And this is what we can take from this. When we read this every Jummah, we reflect upon some of the etiquettes of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, the student of knowledge, and his eagerness to seek knowledge. And the muta'allim, the person who is seeking knowledge, has to have this eagerness and love of seeking knowledge. This is the fundamental foundation of seeking ilm, that you have to have the raghbah, you have to have the urgency and the love for seeking this knowledge. وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِفَتَاهُ لَا أَبْرَحُ حَتَّى أَبْلُغَ مَجْمَعَ الْبَحْرَيْنِ أَوْ أَمْضِيَ حُقُبًا. This just shows you his eagerness. Alayhi salatu wasalam. He said, when he said to his boy, who's the boy? What's his name? Yusha ibn Nun. When he said to the boy, La abrahu, we're not going to stop. Yani in their journey, in seeking knowledge, we are not going to stop until we meet those two rivers that are junction of those two rivers or seas. Or amdiya huqba, or we're going to keep traveling for a very, very, very long time. And the ulama have extrapolated, this shows the eagerness in seeking knowledge. So the person is not going to stop until they get that ilm. And that shows you the fundamental of the manners of a student of knowledge in having this, barakallahu fikum, eagerness and love for ilm. Number 3. And that is the tawadu'u fi talab al-ilm. That we take from this meeting with Musa and Al-Khadir, the importance of having humility in seeking knowledge. In having humility in seeking knowledge. Remembering that Musa is a prophet from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remembering that Musa, Allah saved him, split the sea, destroyed Fir'aun, the mightiest kingdom in the dunya at that time, destroyed him and his thousands, and gave victory to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam and Bani Israel. And this successful Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam is humbling himself when he says, Hal attabi'uka ala an tu'allimni mimma ulimta rushda. Look at that. He's received revelation, alayhi salam. And he said, can I follow you? Not can I lead you? Knowing that he is from Ulil Azm, the 5 most virtuous prophets. And whether Al-Khadir is a prophet or not, he's not as virtuous as whom? Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. He says, can I follow you? Look at the humility. Can I follow you? And you teach me. Number 1, can I follow you? Number 2, can you teach me? Number 3, from that which you have learned, meaning you know something that I don't. Rushda, from guidance, showing the humility of the student of knowledge, and Musa is an example of that. On that note, I want to mention, barakallahu fikum, some nice statements from our ulama regarding the tawadu fi talab al-ilm, humility in seeking knowledge. قال بلال ibn Sa'd رحمه الله تعالى يقول إذا رأيت الرجل لجوجا مماريا معجبا برأيه فقد تمت خسارته. He said rahimahullah that if you see a man that is lajujan, stubborn, arrogantly stubborn, mumariyan, argumentative, mu'jib, and loving and having self-amazement and amazed by his ra'i and his opinion, then know that his destruction is complete. Showing the importance of humility, not having this ujub, not having this self-amazement with that little that you may know. Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, كلمه الله وكلم الله موسى تكليما. Allah spoke to him, ya ikhwa. And he had that humility to seek knowledge. We read the Quran, we read a verse, we memorize it. And we raise ourselves above our status as relates to our jawda, our excellence. Number 2, Masruq. And this is a narration from Abdullah ibn Murrah and Masruq, rahimullahu ta'ala, from the ulama. بحسب الرجل من العلم أن يخشى الله عز وجل. It is sufficient to show the knowledge of an individual that he fears Allah عز وجل. وبحسب الرجل من الجهل أن يعجبه بعلمه. It is sufficient to show the ignorance of an individual that his knowledge amazes him. Yani the person who fears Allah is a sign of their knowledge because they're benefiting from that ilm. But the person who is amazed by their knowledge, They haven't understood that it's not from them. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who's Al-Alim. The person that you are is a servant to Allah. Allah is the one that taught you. So the person needs to have that humility. And this is mentioned in Kitab al-Ilm of Abi Khaythama. Kitab al-Ilm of Abi Khaythama. Number 3, Ibn Qayyim mentions a nice statement. Again, many nice statements from Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala as relates to the manners of the student of knowledge and his humility. Remember, focus, ya shabab, ya Shaykh. We are taking points from the etiquette of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam at this point. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala yaqul, showing the state of an individual who is deluded with that minor knowledge that he may have. يقول فسبحان الله كم من قلب منكوس وصاحبه لا يشعر كم من قلب منكوس. He said rahimahullah, how many hearts are hypocritical, turned over, not steady. And the person like this doesn't even realize. He's traversing the earth while his heart is dead. And because it's pumping, he thinks that's the true life. But the true life is the ilm, that is ilmun nafi', that affects the heart and increases the individual in loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Kam min qalbin, yani how many hearts do we know that there are, rather? That's qalb as mankus, yani it's hypocritical, yani it's not steady. وَصَاحِبُ لَا يَشُورُ وَقَلْبٌ مَمْسُوخ, a disfigured heart. وَكَمْ مِن مَفْتُونَ بِثَنَاءِ النَّاسِ عَلَيْهِ, how many people are afflicted by the praise that people give to them? How many people are afflicted by the praise that people give to them? وَمَغْرُورٌ بِسِتْرِ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ, and he's complacent and deluded just because Allah has hidden that from others. That he has that feeling of grandeur. So he's become complacent. He thinks he's getting away with it. وَمُسْتَدْرِجْ بِالنِّعْمِ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ, and Allah has given him blessings. And the person is continuing upon that path of arrogance and self-amazement. Getting the blessings maybe, or the fruits, or what have you, or the praise, and they think, yeah, this is a good sign. But indeed, there's something waiting for the individual's heart is like that. وَكُلُّ هَذِي عُقُوبَاتٍ, all of this is punishment. It looks like ni'mah. You're mashallah, anta talib ilm, you're khidr, and you start becoming arrogant. This is why I advise, and I always advise my beloved brothers, before I advise them, I advise myself. Never believe what people say about you when they praise you. Because it's all dhanniyan. When people praise you, it's dhanni. It's conjecture. They're just guessworking. You know yourself. The mirror does not lie. So which aqil, which person with intellect is going to leave the yaqeen where you know yourself and go to what? Dhann, and go to something that is just conjecture. The aqil knows yaqinian that he's not an alim. He knows his weaknesses. He knows when he reads some of the books of the Salaf, or he reads the Quran or verse, and he cannot extrapolate when it was revealed, why it was revealed, and what the ulama of the Salaf they said regarding that verse. He can't do it for any verse. He knows that. But people do not know the inner feelings of the individual. So this type of ujab is indeed destructive. Ibn Qayyim mentions this, rahimahullah ta'ala. Number 4, Yusuf ibn Asbat. Again, this is just the narrations from some of the ulama regarding a tawadu'. He was asked, Yusuf ibn Asbat, rahimahullah, su'il, ma ghayatu tawadu'. He was asked, what's the epitome of humility? What is the epitome of humility? Qala, and la talqa. Yani this is not just from him. A lot of the ulama mentioned this athar, by the way. Qala, and la talqa ahadan illa ra'ayta lahu al-fadlu alayhi. Illa ra'aytu lahu al-fadl alayhi. He says, what is the epitome of humility? And that is that he does not meet anyone. He does not meet anyone except that he believes that that person has a virtue over him. Who showed us this example, Ikhwan? Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. He knew and admit, he saw Al-Khadir didn't say, I'm a Nabi, I'm a prophet, Rasul. Kallamani, Rabbi. He didn't say, oh, my Lord spoke to me. I'm from the Ulul Azm. Defeated Pharaoh. No. He saw, when he saw Al-Khadir, he saw a virtue that he had over him, and it's that piece of knowledge. It's that piece of knowledge. And that's the manners of the student of knowledge. Ibn Hibban, rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions in Rawdatul Uqala, and this is a book that I advise myself and my beloved brothers to frequently read this book. This Rawdatul Uqala, wa Nuzhatul Fudala, the gardens of the intellectuals, yani those people with sense, and deals with many etiquettes. And from that he mentions a line of beautiful lines of poetry. He quotes it, وَلَا تَمْشِي فَوْقَ الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا تَوَاضُعًا وَلَا تَمْشِي فَوْقَ الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا تَوَاضُعًا. Do not walk on the face of the earth except in humility. فَكَمْ تَحْتَهَا قَوْمًا هُمْ مِنْكَ أَرْفَعُ. How many people who are under that earth that you're walking on, and they are higher than you in status? فَإِن كُنْتَ فِي عِزٍّ وَخَيْرٍ وَمَنْعَةٍ فَكَمْ مَاتَ مِنْ قَوْمٍ هُمْ مِنْكَ أَمْنَعُ. And if you have some high rank in the dunya that you may feel you have, وَخَيْرٍ, some good that you may feel you have, وَمَنْعَةٍ, some vigor and some strength that you may feel you have, فَكَمْ مَاتَ مِنْ قَوْمٍ هُمْ مِنْكَ أَمْنَعُ. How many of those before you have died from the people who have more vigor than you? So from the ways that we need to use, or the methods we need to use to exercise tawadu and humility, is by looking at those who preceded us in ilm. Look at the library, your library. There isn't anyone here who collects books except that there's a book from Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah. Sahih Allah? Yes or no? There isn't anyone except that they have the books of Ibn Qayyim, Turath. And from modern times, Ibn Baz, Sahahu al-Albani, Hassanuhu al-Albani, Da'afuhu al-Albani. Imam Albani authenticated it, and he said it was sound, and he said that it was weak. We're relying on this. Look at the juhud, and what have we done? What have we done? These people, amna'u wa arfa'u. So the student of knowledge, if you feel you're having a bit of arrogance and a bit of self-amazement, look at the ulama and the juhud that they have in defending the sunnah. Look at the ulama from the salaf and the effort. فَمَاذَا قَدَّمْتُمْ. What have you brought forth? Which is why we read this qissa of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam and Khidr. But do we actually reflect upon the manners of a student of knowledge? Or are we just trying to finish the Surah Al-Kahf for Jummah? Jewels, ya ahibba, for the student of knowledge. The fourth etiquette or fourth reflection from the qissa or the meeting of Salamukumullah, Musa and Al-Khadir is the virtues of knowledge. Fadilatul ilm wal rihlatu fi talabihi. Fadilatul ilmi wal rihlatu fi talabihi. The virtues of knowledge and the virtues of traveling for knowledge. And that is Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. He traveled far. Huquba. Huquba, it means I'm ready to go years and years and years. Huquba. To seek this knowledge from Al-Khadir. And this rihla is something which is known, as you know, from the ulama of hadith. The rihla, traveling for one hadith, traveling for just a narrator. Some of the ulama from the Salaf, they'll use the time of Hajj to go and sit with the ulama and make this rihla. They say farewell to their family members because of the difficulty of the path in getting to Mecca, that they may not see their family members again, paying off their duyun, giving the wasiyah and the wasiyah to their children, as has been documented in the books of the Salaf. So Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, he showed us here the rihla, the importance of traveling for seeking knowledge and increasing in knowledge. Number 5. From that meeting we take also, يفضل التعلم ملازمة الشيخ. It is preferred that the person who is studying and seeking knowledge, that they stick close to a scholar, that they stick close to a teacher, to their shaykh. Did this happen with Musa, ya ahibba? Yes or no? He stuck by him through how many incidents? 3. He stuck by him. This is Nabi Allah, Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. Ala an tu'allimni. There you go. So you can teach me. And this is the etiquette of the student of knowledge, that they must be a people who take from the ulama, take from the people of ilm, and are patient in that regard. And from the fruits that's mentioned by the ulama of taking, yani mushafahatan, taking not from just the books, yani being a suhufi, but taking from the lips of the scholars, there are many virtues. I'll mention 4. The first, ikhtisar al-waqt. Ikhtisar al-waqt. And that is that you can save time. By sitting with the scholars, they summarize difficult issues and simplify it for you, for us, which is why they're the Rabbaniyun. Whereas one can have many books and they're not understanding it, and the ulama will put it into numbers. So it's easier for the person and saves them time in their seeking of ilm. Number 2, and that is the person who takes from the scholars is less likely to make errors because of the ilm of the scholar and his experience. Number 3 is that the person who takes from the scholars, they have the ability to do research. They have the more ability to do research, mubahatha, and also in times of discussions, they have quwwat al-istidlal. In times of discussions, they have strength as it relates to extrapolation and showing the true position or the haqq in a particular issue. And an example that they make, some of the ulama have made to show this importance, is the Ibn Malik. You know Ibn Malik, ya shabab? Sahib Mada? Alfiya. Ibn Malik was a scholar of language and morphology, and he did the book of Alfiya, lines of poetry. It was said that Ibn Malik, he spent his time on just the text, but he didn't sit with scholars as much as he should have. So his research was affected, and in times of munaqasha, when somebody is bringing an issue, he's not firm in his response. He's not firm in his response. So from the fruits of being with the scholars is that you become firm in your response. You have that yaqeen, you have that certainty, and you have the quwwat al-istidlan and the ability to extrapolate as the ulama rabbaniyin do. Number 4, and that is that the person learns as-samt, calmness, wal-adab, manners. You learn calmness, having tarayyuth, being calm and not being hasty, and you learn good etiquettes and manners by being with the scholars. And Imam al-Shatibi in Al-Muwafaqat, he mentions this. And Imam al-Shatibi rahimahullah ta'ala in Al-Muwafaqat, he mentions this and says that the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum, they're an example for us. They learned the samt and the adab from Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And likewise, we need to be a people that sit with the scholars to learn manners, etiquette, and behavior. Number 6, or number 5. Number 6. And that is ليس من الواجب أن يدرك التلميذ جميع ما عند المعلم. That which is important to know as a student of knowledge, which is taken from this meeting between Musa and Khidr, is that it is not a must that you know everything that your Shaykh knows. It is not a must that you know everything that your Shaykh knows. The dalil and proof of this in the story of Musa, أن تعلمني مما علمت رشدا, مما, that you teach me from that which, and not all of it, from that which you've been taught. So that which the ulama have taken from this is that it's not obligatory to take, you have to have all of the knowledge that your scholar has. In fact, it's not possible, which is why the death of the scholars is indeed an affliction. When the scholars die, no doubt they've given some of that which they know, but there are many that they know that maybe others don't. Number 7 that we can take from this is that al-alim, or somebody who has some type of knowledge, and that is fadil, virtuous, if he ما يتمهر إذا لم يتمهر في قضية ما, that if he is not proficient and knowledgeable in a particular area, it's upon him to go and seek knowledge from the one who is. And that's taken from this story, this qissa, this meeting between Musa and Al-Khadir. And that is that Musa is more virtuous than him, but he didn't have the knowledge of these 3 particular incidents. So he went to him for that ilm. Likewise, a student of knowledge, حتى العالم, the scholar, فوق كل ذي علم عليم. There's always one that will have more knowledgeable than you in a particular area. You go to that person. So for example, you're weak in Nahu, the scholar is weak in Nahu, he goes to the one that is strong in Nahu. Or the scholar is not at a high level in ilm hadith, he goes to the scholars or those who have knowledge, even if he is more virtuous than them. Even if he is more virtuous than them. I want to mention a principle that the ulama mentioned regarding virtue. And this again, I didn't place this as some of the points today, but you can add that inshallah. And that is the qaida, the principle, فضيلة الخاصة لا تفضي إلى فضيلة عامة. And we can take that from this. It's just one of the principles that they mention. And that is that somebody may have a specific virtue, but it does not necessitate they're more virtuous holistically. So they may have a specific virtue in something, but it does not mean that they have total, holistic virtue over the other. Are you with me? And likewise, in this meeting between Al-Khadir and Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, he had virtue over Musa regarding this particular knowledge. But that does not mean that he's generally more virtuous than Musa. فضيلة خاصة لا تفضي إلى فضيلة عامة. Having a specific virtue does not necessitate general virtue over others. It's a refutation against the Rawafid and those who make ghulu with Ali ibn Abi Talib also. So Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, who's from the Ulil Azm, from those who had strong resolve, from the messengers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him a virtue. But he realized that there's somebody who had some knowledge that he didn't, so he sought knowledge from him. Number 8. And that is the importance of seeking beneficial knowledge. حقيقة الحث على العلم النافع. And that is seeking that knowledge that is beneficial. Taken from the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, هَلَا تَبِعُكَ عَلَىٰ أَن تُعَلِّمَنِي مِمَّا عُلِّمْتَ رُشْدًا. Can I follow you so you can teach me that which you have been taught from guidance, beneficial knowledge. So Musa is seeking beneficial knowledge, not just ilm, any knowledge, but that knowledge that within it is guidance and hikam, rushda. Number 9. Number 9 is we find that which you can benefit as well, my dear beloved brothers and sisters, is a sabr fi talab al-ilm. Being patient as it relates to seeking knowledge. And we can see from that which our brothers read from the journey of Musa that he was hard through land and sea. Through land and sea. And this shows you the importance of having sabr and patience and thinking of that knowledge that one is getting. So another benefit that the ulama mentioned of tafsir is the fact that Musa ﷺ saw light at the end of the tunnel when he was supposed to stop at that junction between the two rivers. He had this eagerness, huqba. He said, whether it takes years or not, I'm going to get there. So the person who is seeking ilm, they think about the virtues of the knowledge, they think about the fahm of the ayat, the understanding of the verses, the understanding of the hadith, the understanding of fiqh, the understanding of aqidah, the fruits. They think about that, and that aids them in the patience and perseverance in seeking that knowledge, which is what Musa did. But when he found out, Musa ﷺ, that they went the wrong way, they rested. Lahaftum? They rested. And they slept, and then they started back the next day. And the ulama mentioned also as an additional benefit, on top of that which I've just mentioned, is from the ways of the student of knowledge to take a break on your journey. And Musa took a break to collect himself. And then when he took that break, then the day after, they followed their steps back. They were fresh, and then they went to the path in which he was to meet Al-Khadir. Al-Muhim, the point here is the sabr, the patience that Musa showed, and perseverance in seeking the knowledge. And patience in this qissa is mentioned 7 times. Patience in this meeting between Al-Khadir and Musa ﷺ is mentioned 7 times. And the kathrat al-tikrar, and we know the principle that when something is mentioned frequently in the book of Allah and the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it shows its importance. It shows its importance. Another lafta that the ulama have mentioned is it began with sabr and ended with sabr. إِنَّكَ لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعِيَ صَبْرًا. It began with sabr and ended with sabr. مَا لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ عَلَيْهِ صَبْرًا. So in the beginning is sabr, patience. In the middle was sabr, patience, and it ended with patience. And that's how we have to be as students of knowledge. In the beginning of our studying, we have patience. And we have this sabr in seeking ilm. And in the middle, during our talab, we have that sabr, we have that patience. And if you have learned something, because there is no end to our seeking of ilm, but you could have learned something that requires sabr. Which is why Imam Ahmed rahimahullah ta'ala, he goes, إِلَى مَتَ نَطْلُبُ الْعِلْمِ وَنَطْلُبُ الْحَدِيثِ. Up until when do we seek knowledge or seek hadith? إِلَى مَقْبَرَةِ, he said. Up until our graves, or إِلَى الْمَوْتِ, up until our death. So it's not going to end. But when we learn particular affairs, it requires sabr. What's the sabr that we need to learn? The sabr of not seeking the dunya now, the reward now. Because one of the reasons why there's riya and sum'ah and seeking praise is lack of sabr, lack of patience for the reward that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed for those who seek the ilm. May Allah make us be like that. Yani, sabr is pinnacle as it relates to the student of knowledge. This is why it's mentioned 7 times and mentioned in the beginning and middle and at the end of this conversation between Musa and Al-Khadir alayhi salatu wasalam. Another benefit that the ulama they mention, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Khidr says, وَكَيْفَ تَصْبِرُ عَلَى مَا لَمْ تُحِطْ بِهِ خُبْرًا. كَيْفَ تَصْبِرُ عَلَى مَا لَمْ تُحِطْ بِهِ خُبْرًا. How can you be patient regarding that which you have no knowledge of? And the extrapolation from this is that you gain sabr by having ilm. That you gain sabr, patience, by having knowledge. كيف تصبر? How can you be patient? على ما لم تحط به خبرة. How can you be patient with that which you don't know? Yani if you had the khibra, you have patience. Like Khidr had the patience because he had the ilm, but Musa didn't. So there was no sabr. So it shows you the importance of ilm in gaining sabr. So that requires us, my dear beloved brothers and sisters, to know the haqiqat of sabr, to know the realities of sabr. What are the pillars of sabr, ya ikhwan? What are the pillars of patience? I'm sure you've studied this many a time. Aynam. Be patient upon the obedience to Allah. Yani sabr ala ta'atillah. Second, Naam. Be sabr ala an ma'siyatillah. Being patient in staying away from disobedience to Allah. Aywa. Sabr ala aqdarillahi mu'lima. And being patient as it relates to the decree of Allah, that which may taste bitter to you, but no doubt fihi khair. Having patience upon that. And Musa showed all of this in his rihla, in his journey in seeking knowledge. So we have to have this knowledge of the haqiqat of sabr, and also practice sabr. Al-ilmu bi-ta'allum wal-hilmu innama al-ilmu bi-ta'allum wal-hilmu bi-tahallum. We have to practice being patient. If you're from your tabi'iyya, your normal state is that you're a person who wants everything now, you can pretend to be patient, meaning just try, just do it. Be patient, and then bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, you become one that is patient, which is extrapolated from the hadith of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, innama al-ilmu bi-ta'allum wal-hilmu bi-tahallum. That verily knowledge is by doing it, meaning the more you traverse the path of knowledge, you gain it. So the more you practice being patient, you become patient. The more you practice being gentle, you become gentle. The more you practice having good manners, you have good manners, bi'idhnillah. So you may find at times maybe you're harsh with your wife, overly strict with your wife and your children. Practice being gentle. Practice being wise. Perhaps you become hakiman. Perhaps you become latifan. Al-ilmu innama al-ilmu bi-ta'allum. So by practicing patience and seeking ilm, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, perhaps we'll become those who are patient. Number 10. And that we should also take from this hiwar and meeting, conversation between Musa and Al-Khadir and his rihla, is أن طالب العلم ليس مختصا بالصغار. Seeking knowledge is not only for the youth or the young ones. Why? Musa alayhi salatu wasalam was a prophet when he was approximately 40 years old. And from his age of 40 years old, he went through the occurrences between him and Fir'aun. So he was a grown man, he was a man in his a middle-aged man, but yet he sought ilm. So the ulama have used this qissa here, this hiwar and this conversation and meeting between Musa and Khidr, that being or seeking knowledge is not just for the youth, it's for the old as well. So those who are old need to seek knowledge as well. They need to have pens, they need to have books, they need to seek knowledge, they need to have this eagerness to seek knowledge, and all of that which you've mentioned today regarding Musa's example of seeking knowledge, they need to have that. It's not mukhtas bis-sighar, it's not just for the youth. Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala, in his Sahih, Bab al-Iqtibat fi al-ilmi wal-hikmah, the chapter of having permissible envy for one who has knowledge and has wisdom, permissible yani al-ghibta, permissible envy for the one who has knowledge and wisdom. Under that chapter, he mentioned, وَقَالَ عُمَرْ, he mentioned the author of Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu anhu, تَفَقَّهُ قَبْلَ أَن تُصَوَّدُوا. تَفَقَّهُ قَبْلَ أَن تُصَوَّدُوا. Seek knowledge before you have this tasawwud, yani different explanations. Seek knowledge before you are old. It's a statement of Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu anhu. Seek knowledge before you are old, and some of the ulama have explained, seek knowledge before you become a person of status and responsibility. Imam al-Bukhari added to this and explained this, and this is why we have to have the fahm of the Salaf. Sometimes we have the fahm of the Salaf explaining other aqwal of the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum. Imam al-Bukhari رحمه الله تعالى يقول قال أبو عبد الله وهو البخاري وبعد أن تصودوا يعني تفقهوا قبل أن تصودوا وبعد أن تصودوا. He said, seek knowledge and seek the attainment of fiqh before you become old and also after you are old. وقد تعلم أصحاب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في كبر سنهم. Because the companions of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they studied and sought ilm even when they were old. Even when they were old. Abu Bakr was from them. ما أسلم وهو شاب وهو شاب. Alhamdulillah. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Was he young or was he old when he embraced? He was old. Tafaqqah. He taught knowledge. Umar ibn Khattab. He sought knowledge. So what did Hafid ibn Hajar say regarding this statement of Imam al-Bukhari? عقبه البخاري بقوله وبعد أن تصودوا ليبين أن لا مفهوم له خشية أن يفهم أحد من ذلك أن السيادة مانعة من التفقه. In summary, he's saying that Imam al-Bukhari added his words to the statement of Umar ibn Khattab. So with fearing that the people may assume that once you are old, you don't need to teach or learn. Once you're old, you don't need to learn. Just like the youth, they say, I don't need to do Hajj. Sah? I don't need to do Hajj. I'll do it later. You do Hajj when you're young? Is it a condition when you're young? Is it a condition when you're old? Man istata'a alayhi ish? Sabila is the one who has the istita'a, the one who has the ability. So it's not to do with age. And likewise here in seeking knowledge, Hafid ibn Hajar is saying that Al-Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala has mentioned it to show, so people do not think and assume that once you're old you don't need to seek knowledge. وَإِنَّمَا أَرَادَ عُمَرْ. And the statement of Umar was not actually in contradiction to what Imam al-Bukhari, or the statement of Imam Bukhari was not in contradiction to what Umar mentioned. He said, رضي الله عنه, وَإِنَّمَا أَرَادَ عُمَرْ أنها قد تكون سببا للمنع لأن الرئيس قد يمنعه الكبر والاحتشام أن يجلس مجلس المتعلمين. So what Umar ibn Khattab is saying, seek knowledge before you get older, you get a status, what he means is that it could be a means to prevent you from seeking knowledge. Because when the person is of a status, or he's a teacher, or she's a teacher, and then they're in a class where somebody's doing tafsir of Qul Huwallahu Ahad, he's like, I've done that before, I don't need to do that. And then he's missing out in knowledge due to ish, al-kibr, qad yukun arrogance, or ihtisham, embarrassment. Before you are afflicted with this situation, seek knowledge while you are young. But when you're old, you can also seek knowledge. Some of our, barakallahu fikum, our ulama from the Salaf sought knowledge when they were old. From them is Salih ibn Kaysan. Salih ibn Kaysan, rahimahullah ta'ala, it is mentioned that he sought knowledge while he was 160 years old. And some have mentioned a bit younger, but it was after 100. And he met, يعني لقي جمعا من الصحابة, or جماعة من الصحابة. He met a lot of the companions. Rahimullah, Salih ibn Kaysan. And yet, one of his teachers was Al-Imam al-Zuhri. Sahabi or Tabi'i? Tabi'i. This is Salih ibn Kaysan, who's met the companions. Older, 100 plus, he started ilm. And he's from the Rijal of the Kutub al-Sitta, Fima Athkur, no doubt Bukhari and Muslim. And his teacher was Imam al-Zuhri, who was years younger than him. So he sought ilm when he was old. He took hadith when he was old. That's an example. Another example is Isa ibn Musa al-Bukhari. Isa ibn Musa al-Bukhari. Isa ibn Musa al-Bukhari, Al-Imam Hakim rahimahullah ta'ala يقول هو إمام عصره طلب العلم على كبر السين والطوف. He said that Isa ibn Musa, that he was an imam of his generation. He sought knowledge when he was old. When he was old or elderly. What tawaf, I mean, he really went around seeking knowledge. So we see the eagerness of our young from amongst us. Those who are old from amongst us, we should have the same zeal. Because this is ilm, and studying this knowledge has sharaf, has honor. And Musa here, barakallahu fikum, showed us an example of this. In his humility, his eagerness, yani said, I'm relentlessly going to seek this knowledge. I don't care how long it takes. Yani that's what you usually would hear from a young boy or a young man that has this hirs, sahila. But this old middle-aged man has this hirs and this eagerness and love of seeking knowledge. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Number 11, al-ilmu yu'ta ilayhi wa la ya'ti. Al-ilmu yu'ta ilayhi wa la ya'ti. And this is a common statement by the ulama of the Salaf when it comes to seeking knowledge. And that is knowledge, you go to knowledge, knowledge does not come to you. You go to knowledge, knowledge does not come to you. And this is, li'asafin shadid, how we are at times. We want knowledge to come to us. Bell, we're happy just to sit in our library with our cup of tea since COVID, what they call COVID. Sit in our libraries and just listen. We're happy. Huh? But knowledge, as shown in this qissa and this hiwar bayna Musa wal Khidr, is to be sought. Knowledge doesn't seek you. Knowledge we should go to. Knowledge doesn't come to us. And Musa showed this example in his rihla, in his path. He didn't wait for Khidr, he sought him, he looked for him, he traveled. And there's an example of this in some of our salaf, and between Imam Malik and Harun al-Rashid, rahimahumullah ta'ala, regarding his muwatta. I just mentioned the end of it because it's a long qissa. Harun al-Rashid, rahimahullah ta'ala, who was an emir at that time, قال, يعني Imam Malik says, قال لي بعد مدة, يعني he was seeking knowledge from Imam Malik, this emir. And he asked Imam Malik to come out to the people, teach knowledge, teach the people. Then afterwards, Imam Malik advised him that knowledge, you should go out, seek the knowledge should not come to you. And that's where this ilmu yu'ta la ya'ti. This is where that came from, this athar of Imam Malik. So after a while, Imam Malik says, فَقَالَ لِي بَعْدَ مُدَّةٍ. After a while, Harun al-Rashid said to Imam Malik rahimullah, يَا أَبَا عَبْدِ اللَّهِ تَوَاضَعْنَا لِعِلْمِكَ فَانْتَفَعْنَا بِهِ. O Abu Abdullah, Imam Malik, we humbled ourselves to the knowledge, yani we went to it, and we benefited from your knowledge. وَتَوَاضَعَ لَنَا عِلْمُ الصَّفْيَانِ. وَتَوَاضَعَ لَنَا عِلْمُ الصَّفْيَانِ ibn Uyayna فَلَمْ نَنْتَفِعْ بِهِ. So Imam Malik said that Harun al-Rashid said to him, we humbled ourselves to knowledge, meaning we went for it, and we benefited from your knowledge. But the knowledge that we took from Sufyan humbled itself to us. Yani it came to us, and we didn't benefit. وَكَانَ Sufyan يَأْتِيهِمْ إِلَى بُيُوتِهِمْ. Sufyan used to go to their houses to teach them. They didn't travel. So they're saying to Imam Malik, we traveled for your knowledge, so we benefited. But as for Sufyan, it came to us. We didn't benefit. Manjad, wajad. Yani this hard work needs to be done, and this is shown by Musa alayhi salatu wasalam in this point number 12. Number 13. Number 12. I've doubled my numbers. Number 12, labas. التعليم والتعلم لا يفتقران إلى بناء وسكن. And from that we can take from this qissa, or this incident regarding Musa and Al-Khadir, is that knowledge is not restricted to a building. Knowledge is not restricted to a building or indoors. It can be on a journey. It can be on a journey. And how do we know this? For Musa, alayhi salatu wasalam, he was on his journey. He didn't meet Al-Khadir in a residence. He was still traveling. And it shows the etiquette of the ulama, that they teach whether they're indoors, they teach whether they're walking, they teach whether they're traveling. And Shaykh Abdullah Al-Ahmami, mashallah, Allahumma barak, he used to go Umrah with Shaykh Ubaid regularly and finish books and fawaid and benefits in that rihla. And another example is from Al-Alama Shaykh Rabi', Shaykh Ubaid rahimahullah rahmatan wasi'ah. Al-Alama Shaykh Rabi', when he came to Al-Madinah, the first couple of years, brothers would go with him in his car for Salatul Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib and Isha. And then as he got a bit old, the sun was too much, so it was just Fajr, Maghrib and Isha. And they would read Usul al-Thalatha after Fajr every day, literally just 5 minutes. And after a while, they finished the matan. Whilst the Shaykh is going to Salah, on the way to the masjid, and on the way back. As-Sayr ila-Allah finished it. They finished it, these brothers. May Allah reward them. Ilm Hadith, Mutun of Mustalah Hadith, they finished it in the car. Ta'liqat from the Shaykh, on the way to the masjid, coming back to the masjid. And rarely, he would tell them to go upstairs. And this is how the ulama are. They're ready to teach the people. And here, it shows us in this qissa of Musa that it's not restricted to a building or a masjid. Or no doubt, the most virtuous place to seek knowledge is the masjid. But when you're on a trip, like for example, your brothers are traveling, you pick up a book and you study, yes or no? You read fawaid, benefits from the scholars. And this is an example here by Musa, alayhi salatu wasalam. Number 13. And that is an affair which we as students of knowledge have to be privy to. We have to be awake and aware of the plots of shaitan. We have to be aware of the plots of shaitan in trying to prevent the student of knowledge in seeking ilm. قال أرأيت إذ أوينا إلى الصخرة فإني نسيت الحوت وما أنسانيه إلا الشيطان أن أذكره. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, He said, did you see when we took ourselves to the rock, yani when they relaxed? I indeed forgot the fish. I forgot the fish, yani the sign that they were looking for. None except for shaitan made me forget to remember it. So that which the ulama have taken from this is that shaitan, his plot is to be a mani', to prevent the student of knowledge from getting ilm. And from the ways that this occurs is by a wiswas, whispers, trying to enter ujub, self-amazement into the hearts of the talib al-ilm, because he knows that the student of knowledge that has ujub min ajhal al-nas, as is mentioned by Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, ajhal al-nas, most ignorant of students is the one who is self-amazed by that which he has. And the evidence that he's ignorant is he does not even know himself. لا يدري حقيقة نفسه. He doesn't even know the reality of himself, let alone the realities of ulum, sciences and fiqh. He doesn't even know himself. So shaitan whispers, shaitan plots. So the student of knowledge has to be ready to combat the plots of shaitan. And from the nice works in this regard is the books and works of Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, and also Ibn Jawzi in regarding the talbis of Iblis, the deception of Iblis. Number 14. And that is from affair of Aqidah that we can take from the meeting of Khidr and Musa, is that the Anbiya are humans. They are humans not to be worshipped. يَأْكُلُونَ وَيَشْرَبُونَ يَأْكُلُونَ وَيَشْرَبُونَ. They're humans, they eat and they drink. Who can tell me where's the proof in this that the Prophet eats and drinks? آتِينَا غَدَاءَنَا. Now, give us our breakfast. And there's a nice benefit that the ulama mentioned. So first of all, آتِينَا غَدَاءَنَا. Give us our breakfast. Let's eat. And they slept. And they slept, which shows that the Anbiya are bashar, that the prophets are humans. And this is a refutation against the Christians who also, they worship Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مَا الْمَسِيحُ ابْنُ مَرْيَمَ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ وَأُمُّهُ صِدِّيقَةٌ كَانَ يَأْكُلَانِ الطَّعَامِ انظر كيف نبين لهم الآيات ثم انظر أن يؤفكون. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Jesus, Masih ibn Maryam, the son of Maryam, is a prophet, yani not more than a prophet. And indeed, prophets before him were upon the same as what he's upon. وَأُمُّهُ صَدِيقَةٌ. And his mother was indeed a believer and a trustworthy believer. كَانَ يَأْكُلَانِ طَعَامًا. They used to eat. They used to eat. So in this story also it shows us that Musa ate, Musa slept. And another benefit regarding this verse, آتِنَا غَدَاءَنَا, it shows another example of the humility of Musa. Now, آتِنَا غَدَاءَنَا, the ulama have mentioned that it shows the tawadu of Musa. He didn't say آتِنِي غَدَائِي. He didn't say, give me my food. Atina, give us our food. And that's the boy that he hired. That's the boy that he hired. Give us, not give me. Give us our food, not give me my food. Like someone who in charge will say to that which is subservient, the one who's subservient to him. Fahimtumuni ya Shaykh? Showing the tawadu of Musa in this nuqta as well. Should we make that 15? Make that 15. The humility of Musa in treating the person that he's employed. Our food, so he's eating with him. It's our food, it's not just mine. I know that it was Musa's who provided that food. Now, number 16. And that is ينبغي للعالم أن يتنبه للفتن. From that we can take from this hiwar is that it's upon the scholar that they have fiqh and see the signs of fitan, trials and tribulations and afflictions. And we find this from our ulama. That the ulama, they see fitna coming and the jahil sees the fitna once it's gone. As is mentioned by, I believe, Hassan al-Basri rahimullah. So from this qissa shows us the importance. Al-Khadir showed that he saw the ramifications of certain incidents through science, knowledge that Allah gave him. So he sunk the ship, so he killed the youth, and he built the building that was breaking down. Due to foresight in the ilm that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him and the wisdom. So the scholar has to be that فَخَشِينَ أَن يُرْهِقُهُمَا طُغْيَانًا وَكُفْرًا. And that part there is more specific. Where Al-Khidr, he explained why he killed that young man. He said, we feared. And this is the point here. We feared that he will be oppressive and tyrannic to his parents. So this is him using wisdom from that which Allah gave him to see the fitna coming before it came. To see the fitna coming before it came. Is that number 16? Number 17. الرد على منكر الأسباب. That from this, again, this is something to do with aqidah. It's a refutation against those who negate taking the means. And that is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no doubt, has the qudra, azza wa jal, to prevent and stop the ship or the malik from stealing from the ship and the hard work that the inhabitants of that ship went through. But the asbab was taken to do that. And that was through Al-Khadir putting holes in the boat. So the means was still established along with the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's a refutation against those who say, leave the asbab, leave the means. Here, the means was established, even though Allah revealed to who? Al-Khadir, regarding this affair, but he still took the asbab, he still took the means. It would have been easy for Allah, it's easy for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just to prevent the king from stealing from them. But it shows the hikmah and the fruits of this liqa bayna al-Khadiri wa Musa. Number 18. And that is ينبغي للإنسان يعتذر ويعترف بخطئه. Again, showing this is against linked to the humility of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. And that is that it's important that the individual owns up to his errors. فلا تصاحبني لقد بلغت من لدني عذرا. نعم. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that Musa, he says, if I question you again, do not take me as a companion because you have given me enough chances. You've given me enough chances. So he's admitting to his errors. And that's from the humility of Musa, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So from that, it's important that an individual, when you make an error, you own up to it. And that is the best way for tawbah. Barakallahu feekum. Number 19. And that is the virtue of musahabati as-salihin. The virtue of accompanying the righteous. And no doubt, the fata, the young boy, accompanied whom? Musa. And did he benefit from that? Naam. He got knowledge from Musa, and also later on he was what? A prophet. It shows you the fruits of having good companions, as is shown by Musa and this fata. Number 20. And that is al-amal al-salih wal-a'mal al-bir yantaqilu atharuha ila al-awladi fi dunya. And this is for parents. And that is the good deeds and good actions of the parents would affect their children. The good actions and the good deeds would affect the children in this dunya. وَكَانَ أَبُوهُمَا صَالِحًا وَكَانَ أَبُوهُمَا صَالِحًا. So when we talk about our children misbehaving and we see their rude behavior and there's no ta'a, obedience and truant and so forth, we have to ask ourselves, how are we as parents? Because in this qissa, this hiwar bayna Musa wal Khadir, he said, وَكَانَ أَبُوهُمَا صَالِحًا. They had the tawfiq. These individuals whose house was, barakallahu feekum, collapsing, and there was that qissa, wasn't it? No. It was collapsing, and there was jewels and treasure. So due to the righteousness of their parents, the children benefited. Due to the righteousness of the parents, the children benefited. And it shows the importance that the parents have to be righteous. The husband has to be righteous, which is why we have some of the statements of our Salaf, that they كانوا يرون يعني معصيتهم في أهل بيته ودابته وكما قالوا, that they used to see the signs of their disobedience in their wives and their riding beasts. So if your car's not starting, if the wife is disobedient, من وجد خيرا فليحمد الله ومن وجد غير ذلك فليؤمن إلا نفسه. The Salaf used to look at themselves. My wife is disobedient. This is a sign of my disobedience. My riding beast is being stubborn and not moving. This is a sign of my disobedience. And likewise, barakallahu feekum, وَكَانَ أَبُوهُمَا صَالِحًا. And due to the righteousness of their parents, these youth, they benefited from this. What number was that? 20? Should we do some more? More? 21. And that is that in this hiwar, we have the hifth of the dururiyat, some of the dururiyat, naam, or most of them, which is where we have these necessities of man. And every man Every woman, child, they have these necessities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has preserved in the Quran, in the Sunnah. He's preserved in the legislation. Who can name these necessities? There's 5 of them. Who can name these 5 necessities of man that every single man needs preserved? Deen. That's number 1, deen. And this is shown in the statement of Allah. فَكَانَ أَبُوهُ مُؤْمِنَيْنِ كَانَ أَبَوَاهُ مُؤْمِنَيْنِ فَخَشِينَ أَن يُرْهِقَهُمَا. The preservation of the deen. And their parents, the 2 parents, were believers. And we feared that he would be tyrannic towards them, affect their deen. So this shows the preservation of the religion. That's why the child was killed. Okay, another durura. Intellect. Now, I can't think of that. Can anyone think of that in the story of Musa? I can't think of the al-aql into it. Maybe the general seeking of knowledge. The general seeking of knowledge. Lam, la shak. Because from the preservation of the aql is the hath ala talib al-ilm. Is the encouragement in the book of Allah, Qul Rabbi zidni ilma. Oh my Lord, say, oh my Lord, increase me in knowledge. The encouragement to seek knowledge is due from the reasons of this is the preservation of the intellect and preservation of the heart. Now, what's the third? Preservation of wealth. When is that mentioned? Is that mentioned in this qissa, ya shabab? Which one? The first incident, second, or the third? Not the first? Not the first? First and third, but mainly the first, where he put the holes in the ship or the boats to preserve their wealth. To preserve their wealth from being pilfered by or stolen by the ruler at that time. And also, the third incident, the ulama mentioned the importance of preserving the wealth of the orphan. Wal al-yatim. And that's why he built the wall and steadied it to preserve the kanz, to preserve the wealth that is found under there. And that's taken from in the books of fiqh, the importance of preserving the wealth of the orphans and working hard to do so, as is done by Khidr in this incident. So we've done, how many dururiyat have we done now, ikhwan? We've done deen. What's the other one? Intellect. Another one? Wealth. Lineage. Or let's say nafs. Preservation of life. Preservation, hifz al-nafs. Preservation of life. Can you tell me, who could tell me where's that from in this qissa of Musa and Khidr? The preservation of life. Or, to make it easy for you to answer, bi'idhni Rabb, the eagerness to preserve life. The eagerness to preserve life. When Musa asked for the proof. Okay, after a few journeys, you get the, that's it. But there's something else. Aywa? The parents of the boy, preserving them, naam, in a way, naam, but there's something clearer. What? Yes, Musa questioned why he killed the boy, which it shows the eagerness to preserve life and shows the seriousness of murder. Of course, Musa didn't know the reason, but his care for that is from that which shows the preservation of life. Now, benefit number 22, and that is we see in these 3 incidents, Jazakumullah khair for your patience. We saw that, what was the first incident, Ikhwan? Remind me. The first one was what? The boat. Yeah? Holes were put in the boat. So there was deficiency, yes? The ulama have said that not everything that is deficient has no benefit. That when something is deficient, it doesn't negate its benefit. And that boat was what? Had deficiencies, yes or no? But it benefited the workers, that their wealth was not stolen. The third one, the second one, what's the second one? The murder of the boy. Asa an takrahu shay'an wa huwa خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. And that's what the ulama take from that. That perhaps you hate something, but it's good for you. As Musa was angry and did not like the fact that that young boy was murdered, but yet there was maslahah, there was a benefit from it. And we take this in our lives, that perhaps you may dislike something, but it is what? Wallahu a'lam wa antum la ta'lamun. No. You do not, Allah knows, and you do not know. So we take this into our lives, barakallahu fikum, implementing it in these affairs that we go through, trials, whether it's loss of wealth, life, mansab, something that taqra, you may dislike. Asa an yakun khayran lak. Perhaps it is good for you, and that's what we can take from all of these three incidents. In the apparent, it may seem something bad, but there is a benefit afterwards. And that's what the ulama have mentioned regarding this. And finally, I want to mention, is that 23? And that is an important point. فَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. I mentioned it previously, that you can take from this qissa, that above everyone that knows, there's somebody who knows something that you don't. Why? Because this happened to the Prophet of Allah, Musa. And it doesn't necessitate that the person is more virtuous than you. Wallahu a'lam. Lakin Musa is more virtuous than Al-Khadir. Lakin tafawwaq, he was above him as it relates to that particular, or these particular affairs. And he was seeking knowledge from him. And this, inshallah, should aid us in being humble in whatever we learn. Yani, whatever we memorize, whatever we've studied, or whoever we've sat with, or how many years we've been in Medina, or how many years we've been in Riyadh, or how many years we've been studying, how many books we've finished, ijazat, kada wa kada. Khalik mutawadi'an. Be humble, because there's somebody who's done more than you. فوق كل ذي علم عليم. There's always someone who has more knowledge than you. And there is somebody who has more virtues than you. So this should aid us in being humble and seeking further knowledge, because indeed the one that is humble increase in ilm. The most noble of people are the humble, the most humble from them, the modest from them. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us benefit from that which we read, from the kalams, statements of the ulama, the ayats that we read from the book of Allah, the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that we're humble in learning this, so He may increase us in knowledge and alleviate the ignorance that we may have, that we all have. Ameen. هذا والله أعلم. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. حياكم الله. Hmm? 1 minute. Are those who say there is a difference in opinion in regards to pictures and videos correct? This issue of difference of opinion, Ikhwan, there's there's a point that I'll make in that regard, just because it's a big discussion. Whether it's difference of opinion that someone claims because of pictures and videos, or difference of opinion that they claim regarding this or this affair, it's important that we understand the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all you who believe, enter into Islam completely. So we're people of dalil. Al-ikhtilaf is not dalil. Hatu burhanakum in kuntum sadiqeen. Bring your evidence if you're truthful. And this is what Shaykh al-Rabi' mentions to anybody who has any issue or wants to bring anything. Bring us your evidence. The presence of khilaf is not a dalil. And it is not rahmah, because the hadith is weak, mawdu'. It is not mercy. But rather is khalal if it's present by one or the other. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala mentioned a beautiful statement in Majmu' Fatawa regarding the hadith عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا اجتهد القاضي والحاكم فأصاب له أجران وإن أخطأ فله أجر واحد. If a mujtahid, and this is when there is a difference, not when people assume that's a difference. And when we talk about difference of opinion, it has to be a qawl that is mu'tabar. Somebody whose statement is actually considered, not the fact that there is a single person that differed. La. His qawl has to be mu'tabar. If it's somebody whose opinion is accepted in the first place. The Prophet ﷺ said that when this mujtahid, the person who's working hard to get what, ikhwan? Working hard to get what? اجتهد في ايش؟ في رأي أو في أدلة. And he works hard in getting proofs and evidence. He gets two rewards. And he's right. He gets a reward for his hard work in seeking the truth, and he gets a reward for attaining the truth. But if he makes a mistake, he gets one reward. What's the reward for, ikhwan? Seeking the evidence. And to Ma'il al-an, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions in Majmu' Fatawa, works hard to get the evidence, and he's right, he gets two rewards. One reward for working hard to get there, and second reward for getting there and being correct. وَإِنْ أَخْطَأَ فَلَهُ أَجْرٌ وَاحِدٌ. The hadith. Or كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم. And if he's wrong in his ruling at the end, he gets one reward. He gets one reward. And that reward is for seeking sincerely the adillah, the proof and evidence. Upon this, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, he mentions in Majmu' Fatawa, he said that the one yattabi' al-mujtahid bil-hawa, the one who follows that scholar in that opinion with desires, meaning that you just want to find something that suits you. So you're following that scholar that's seeking the hadith, who has that opinion. You've sought that through desires, and your opinion it ends up being right. You get no reward. You don't get reward for working hard because you didn't. You don't get no reward for getting there. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Your actions are by intentions. So you get zero, even if you're on the right opinion, but you chose it because you have this thing in your heart of this ta'assub. You just want to you justify your opinion, not to get the dalil, the evidence. And Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, the one who follows his desires upon that opinion and he gets it wrong, he gets a sin for getting it wrong. Faqat. So we're people of the sunnah, we're people of hadith. We seek dalil. There are differences of opinion. There are some affairs where you get, like if you look in those who nail al-awtar, sometimes Shawkani, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, there's 35 opinions. Do we go eeny, meeny, miny, mo? Haqqa baqra ya'mi atini ashara? We don't. So Shawkani, he says, aqwaha wa asahhuha arba or khamsa. And he leaves the rest. He's not making khiyana because he didn't mention the other opinions. What did we say was the benefit of sitting with the scholars? It saves you what? Time. Shaykh Salih al-Fawzan al-Imam, Hafidhahullah ta'ala, as-sahih qawlayn. You haven't seen that before, ikhwan? Yes or no? Ibn Uthaymeen, as-sahih qawlayn. Does he start talking about all of the differences? Or he mentions the one that he believes is the strongest? Ain't. But we have this rhetoric today that some of the brothers, some of the older brothers who have been here have been doing khiyana, have been deceiving us for years because there is an opinion. Yes, there's an opinion, for example, that Salatul Jama'ah is not wajib, but it's mardud. So we cultivate our brothers and our families upon the correct opinion, with evidences and proofs. There's no dalil for that. كل يؤخذ قوله ويرد إلى صاحب هذا القبر. Everyone's statement is taken and rejected except for the one who's in that grave. Yeah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Where are we, ikhwan? Where have we been? We're sleeping. Difference of opinion. Tayyib. Another point. The fact that there is a difference of opinion does not justify your actions. You're going to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَتُكَلِّمُنَا أَيْدِيهِمْ وَتَشْهَدُ أَرْجُلُهُمْ. Your hands will testify against you, bear witness against you. Your legs bear witness against you. Your dealing is not going to be. There's a difference of opinion because your mouth will be sealed. نختم على أفواههم. أو نختم ونختم. نختم على أفواههم. نعم. The mouth will be sealed. So you can't say, oh, difference of opinion. Allah has given us the Quran, the Sunnah, dalil, evidence. Don't tell me this is a difference of opinion. Bring me something ilmi. Bring me hadith. Bring me aqwal from the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum. And let's look at the aqwaha. And then we just follow it. Khalas, it's done. Another issue. This is makruh. This is makruh. This is makruh. Makruh, meaning disliked, has istilahat mukhtalifa in the a'imma. Makruh in the mutaqaddimin, those who ulama from the early scholars, means haram. If you read the works of Imam Ahmed, the talib now comes few hundred years later and says, Imam Ahmed says it's makruh. Yani yaqsud haram, habibi. That's one thing. A second thing is, since when have we been du'at ila karaha? When is it that we are calling people to that which is makruh, is makruh? Was that the way from the Salaf? Is that what we find in Kitab al-Zuhud of Waqi' ibn Jarrah? Is that what we find in the books of Zuhud of Imam Ahmed? Is that what we find in the aqwal of the Salaf, that they will make a da'wah to something that, okay, it's halal, you can do it? Or do they make a da'wah to that which is better, ikhwan? Which one? In fact, al-wara', which is cautiousness, with the istilah of the Salaf, is staying away from the mubahat. Staying away from those things that may be permissible with fear that it will lead to what? Haram. This is wara'. Where are we? Where are we? Difference of opinion. We never heard of this with Shaykh bin Baz. We didn't hear this from Shaykh Albani. Shaykh Albani, listen to his ashrita for those who have the ability. No one comes to him from the tulab al-ilm and says, فيه خلاف يا شيخ. أنا على قول الثاني. طيب يكفيك هذا. Okay, لكم دينكم ولي دين. I'm upon that opinion. No, bring your dillah, help me. Let me be somebody who does good that you think you're doing. لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. Tell me, let me know. You think you're on the haqq? Tell me, please. And I hope to Allah that I'm sincere in taking your adillah, because that's how we have to be. We have to go back, ikhwan. The world of social media is melting. Our ilm is diluting our ilm. Let's go back. Let's go back to Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah. Let's read. Let's go back to Ibn Qayyim. Let's go further back to the ulama of the Salaf. I know, thank you. Jazakallah khair. Let's go. I know, khalas, let's finish. Malish. Thank you. Let's go back to the Salaf and pray on time. Sallallahu wa sallam wa barik ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.